Bears fans, the atmosphere around this team right now feels different, and it starts with the reality of where the season stands as the Bears prepare for another massive matchup against Green Bay. Coming off a short week, the first real checkpoint is the injury situation, and while the practice was more of a walkthrough than a full session, the report still tells an important story about where this roster is physically and mentally heading into Saturday. A few names being held out naturally raise eyebrows, but context matters, especially when time is tight and the staff is clearly balancing caution with urgency. Andrew Billings showing up due to an illness is something to monitor, but it is not the kind of issue that usually lingers deep into the weekend. Sickness can clear quickly, and the hope inside the building is that it does exactly that before kickoff. Luther Burden remains day-to-day with his ankle, which is far more relevant when you look at how much this offense relies on timing and explosiveness. When you pair that with the ongoing conversation around Rome Odunze and the idea of protecting him from himself, it becomes clear the Bears are thinking beyond just one game, even though this one feels enormous. That balance between long-term health and short-term necessity is one of the hardest parts of this stage of the season. The limited participants tell their own story. Tremaine Edmunds being eased back and makes sense given that his return window has just opened. The encouraging part is that there is legitimate optimism about seeing him on the field soon, possibly even against Green Bay. The short week complicates things, but even if it does not happen immediately, the idea that he could be back for the final stretch of the regular season is huge. His impact in coverage this year cannot be overstated, and losing that presence was felt. Cole Kmet being listed as limited feels more like maintenance than alarm, especially for a veteran who understands how to manage his body at this point in the year. What stands out just as much is who is not on the list. Seeing key defensive names absent from the report is a relief and reinforces the sense that, overall, this is about as clean as the Bears could realistically hope for in December. There are no shocking developments, no sudden setbacks that change the entire outlook. The focus remains on a few specific situations, particularly Burden's ankle and Billings' illness, but nothing here feels like a deal-breaker. It sets the stage for what really matters, which is how this team shows up when the lights are on. On the other side, Green Bay is dealing with its own issues, and their injury list is far from empty. Several contributors were unable to practice, and that creates opportunities if the Bears are ready to take advantage. Still, injuries only matter if you make them matter. Talking about advantages on paper does not win games, and everyone in that locker room knows it. This rivalry has taught Bears fans over the years that nothing is given, especially against this opponent. That brings everything back to the quarterback because it always does. Caleb Williams has been very open about how the first meeting with Green Bay ended and the role he played in it. There is no deflection, no excuses, just a clear acknowledgement that he needs to be better. That mindset matters. When he talks about the excitement of facing the Packers again at Soldier Field, it does not come across as reckless confidence, but rather as a quarterback who understands the weight of the moment and welcomes it. The biggest takeaway from Caleb's recent comments is his understanding of control. He knows that if he plays at the level he is capable of, this offense can function at a completely different gear. The Bears have talked all season about starting faster, about not putting themselves in holes early, and that lesson was reinforced the hard way. Against Cleveland, the offense looked sharper from the opening drive, and that was reflected in efficiency and rhythm. Completing passes, sustaining drives, and letting the entire playbook breathe changes everything. Fair or not, Caleb will be judged by wins and losses. That is the job description. It does not mean every mistake is solely on him, but it does mean he carries the responsibility of the outcome. When he plays within the structure, delivers accurate throws, and manages the game with confidence, the Bears look like a team that can compete with anyone. When things stall early, the margin for error disappears quickly. Beating Green Bay requires 4 quarters of discipline and execution. It is not about hero throws or forcing something that is not there. It is about taking what the defense gives you, leaning on the running game, and setting a tone that says this will be a full team effort. The absence of certain defenders on the other side only matters if the Bears' offense capitalizes on it. That starts with Caleb being decisive protecting the football, and staying in rhythm. History hangs heavy in this matchup. Green Bay has dominated this rivalry for far too long, and everyone knows the numbers. If the Bears want to change that narrative, it cannot be talked into existence. It has to be taken. Divisional records matter, standings matter, and holding on to a position at the top of the division means winning games like this. There's no way around it. This stretch of a season is where quarterbacks grow or get exposed. These games feel different because they're different. Every opponent is fighting for position, every mistake is magnified, and every snap carries weight. Caleb does not need to be perfect, but he needs to be composed, consistent, and confident. These next games are less about potential and more about performance under pressure. The Bears' passing offense has been solid, but not spectacular, sitting firmly in that middle ground that reflects both promise and limitation. There is talent on the roster, there are weapons available, but consistency is the separator between good and great. That consistency starts with decision-making, timing, and trust, and it is something this offense is still chasing as it heads into the most important part of the schedule. What the Bears have accomplished so far should not be dismissed. A winning season, meaningful games in December, and a clear direction for the future all matter. But now comes the part where good teams prove they belong. Over the final games of the regular season, the question becomes how Caleb responds to defenses that are throwing everything at him, how he handles hostile environments and playoff-level intensity, and how he manages moments where one throw can change the entire outcome. This is where growth happens, and growth is rarely comfortable. Mistakes will happen, hits will come, and criticism will be loud. None of that matters if the response is right. The focus stays on football, on preparation, and on execution between the lines. Everything else is noise. As this team looks ahead to Saturday, the connection between Caleb Williams and the ceiling of the Chicago Bears could not be clearer. When he is sharp, the entire operation rises with him. When he struggles, the limits show themselves quickly. This matchup, with its history, pressure, and stakes, is another opportunity to see exactly where this young quarterback is in his journey and how ready this team truly is for what comes next. As much as the spotlight naturally falls on the quarterback, this matchup is just as much about how the rest of the roster responds to the moment, especially on the defensive side of the ball. One of the clearest themes coming out of the locker room this week has been accountability, and that starts up front. The Bears' defensive line knows it has not consistently played to the standard expected of it, and there is no hiding from that reality. There have been flashes, moments where pressure changed the flow of games, but too often it has come in waves instead of being sustained. The interior presence has been solid without being dominant, and that is where more is needed against an opponent like Green Bay. Containing the run, collapsing the pocket, and forcing the quarterback to speed up his process are not optional in a game like this. Big plays have been the issue in previous matchups, and those breakdowns have often come from losing discipline or failing to finish plays. Against a team that thrives on capitalizing on mistakes, that margin disappears fast. The encouraging part is that the defense has shown it can rise to the occasion. Early stops in the first meeting prove that the scheme and effort can work. The problem was that those stops were not fully supported by the offense, and momentum slipped away. Football is complementary by nature, and both sides have to feed off each other. When the defense does its job early, the offense has to reward that effort. That connection will be critical if the Bears want to control the tempo at Soldier Field. Pass rush remains the key. Pressure does not always mean sacks, but it has to be constant. Making the quarterback uncomfortable, forcing quicker throws, and closing throwing lanes can change the entire dynamic of a game. The Bears have seen improvement in that area over recent weeks, and that needs to carry over into this matchup. Edge defenders stepping up, interior linemen pushing the pocket, and linebackers flowing cleanly to the ball all play into the same goal. The potential return of key defensive pieces in coverage could be just as important. Having experienced defenders back on the field brings communication, confidence, and flexibility. It allows the coaching staff to be more aggressive, to disguise looks, and to trust that the back end can hold up when pressure is sent. Against a quarterback who thrives on rhythm and timing, disrupting that flow is essential. This is also where leadership matters most. Veteran voices have been clear about respect for the opponent without fear of them. That mindset is healthy. Respect keeps you prepared, while fear makes you tentative. The message has been simple. Limit the explosive plays when the small moments, and understand that games like this are decided by a handful of snaps. One missed assignment, one blown coverage, or one lapse in focus can swing everything. The environment at Soldier Field is expected to be as intense as it has been all season. Games like this demand energy, and the Bears feed off that emotion when it is channeled correctly. Playing fast but controlled, aggressive but disciplined, is the balance this team has to strike. Letting the moment overwhelm you leads to penalties and mistakes, and that is exactly what Green Bay looks to exploit. Offensively, balance will again be a major factor. Establishing the run does more than just move the chains. It slows down the pass rush, opens up play action, and keeps the defense honest. The Bears have the personnel to do that, and leaning into it early could take pressure off the quarterback while setting a physical tone. When the offense stays on schedule, everything becomes easier. Protection will be tested, especially if injuries limit the available weapons on the outside. That means sharper routes, fewer drops, and smarter decisions. There is no room for forcing throws into coverage, especially in critical situations. The Bears have shown that when they value the football and stay patient, they can sustain drives and wear teams down. The broader picture is impossible to ignore. This is not just another regular season game. The standings, the rivalry, and the path ahead all intersect here. The Bears are being measured not by where they started, but by how they finish. These final games are about proving growth, resilience, and readiness for playoff-level football. Every young team reaches a point where potential must turn into production. That is where the Bears find themselves now. They have already crossed one threshold by becoming competitive again. The next step is showing they can consistently win the games that define seasons. That requires execution in high-pressure moments and trust in the identity they have built. Mistakes will happen, but how this team responds to them will say everything. Do they tighten up, or do they stay aggressive and composed? Do they learn within the game, make adjustments, and close strong? Those are the traits that separate teams that simply reach the postseason from teams that can make noise once they get there. The connection between offense and defense has to be seamless. Quick stops lead to shorter fields. Sustained drives give the defense time to recover and stay fresh. Special teams have to do their part by controlling field position and avoiding self-inflicted wounds. Every phase matters more when the margins are this thin. This stretch is also about building belief. Winning a game like this does more than improve a record. It reinforces confidence in the locker room, validates the work put in throughout the season, and changes how opponents view you. The Bears have an opportunity to send a message, not with words, but with execution. There is no shortcut through this moment. Preparation, focus, and effort will decide it. The rivalry adds emotion, but at its core, this is about playing sound football. The Bears know what went wrong the first time, and they know what has to improve. The challenge now is turning that knowledge into action when it matters most. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL community, whispers are circulating that wide receiver Michael Thomas has reportedly parted ways with the New Orleans Saints and could soon be donning the Chicago Bears jersey. While neither franchise has issued an official statement, sources close to the matter suggest that Thomas's departure from the Saints was anything but quiet, igniting speculation about what this could mean for both teams moving forward. Thomas, once hailed as one of the most dominant receivers in the league, has faced a roller coaster of highs and lows during his tenure in New Orleans. Known for his precise route running and ability to make acrobatic catches in traffic, he has also endured a series of injuries and off-field challenges that have left fans and analysts questioning whether his best days are behind him. However, the potential move to Chicago opens a tantalizing narrative, Could a change of scenery reignite the fire that once made Thomas a perennial Pro Bowl selection? The Bears, who have been searching for a consistent offensive weapon, could see Thomas as the answer to a persistent question at wide receiver. The team's passing game has struggled to find rhythm and identity, and a player of Thomas's caliber could instantly reshape their offensive schemes. Rumors suggest that the front office in Chicago is highly intrigued by the opportunity to pair Thomas with their young quarterback, imagining combinations that could stretch defenses and create dynamic mismatches. Meanwhile, the Saints find themselves at a crossroads. Losing a star of Thomas's magnitude is never easy, and while the organization is likely exploring replacement options, the timing and circumstances of his departure could leave a noticeable void in the lineup. Fans are already buzzing with speculation. Will New Orleans pivot toward youth, or is a trade in the works to acquire a new veteran presence? As the story develops, insiders hint that negotiations have been quietly ongoing, and while nothing has been finalized, the NFL world is already abuzz with possibilities. If Thomas truly makes the leap to Chicago, the Bears could be positioning themselves for a surprising shakeup in the league's offensive landscape, while the Saints brace for the fallout of losing one of their marquee talents. For now, the rumor mill is alive, and fans on both sides of the country are watching closely, waiting for confirmation of what could be one of the most talked about moves of the offseason. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.